So welcome everyone. Let us start. So today we have to start from, we were reading book In the Mother's Life by Rishabhchand on desire. Topic was desire and we were around page 227, and today we have to start this new subtopic, two attitudes towards desire. So yes, anyone would like to, maybe we can take it all at once. So anyone would like to lead, please go ahead.
Should I?
Yeah.
Two attitudes towards desire. In spiritual life, there can be only two attitudes towards desire. One is that of the ascetic, which is an attitude of relentless hostility and rigid repression, and the other, the plastic and supple attitude of the lover of God in life as well as in light. The ascetic, whose single aim is to wake up from what he calls the delirium of life, strives to strangle desire by sheer will force and rigorous self denial. And in strangling desire, strangles or sterilizes life itself. He bruises the motor springs of life and inhibits all expansive faculties, cripples all will and initiative till he finds himself sitting upon his own corpse. It is true that the Gita advises the slaying of desire, but of desire only. Attachment and a quiet and persistent rejection of desire. This attitude is of those who believe that God is not only transcendent of life, but also immanent in it, and that it is his unblemished manifestation in terrestrial life that is the object of the soul's descent into birth. A calm and integral rejection of desire for the discovery of the divine will and its creativity play in life, and its creative play in life constitutes the cardinal principle of the second attitude, which we shall now consider at some length.
Yeah, thank you. Any thoughts, any reflections? Anyone? So it's very interesting because now we need to make a very fine demarcation and oftentimes it happens that uh, it happens with us when we are on the spiritual path, that we read these words that okay, we have to step back from desire, and these kind of things, and we become very dull. You must have seen that happening. It happens with us. There are phases that happens, and people say that what has happened to you, you have become very dull. So that's what, it's a very fine demarcation. So here he says, it is true that the Gita advises the slaying of desire, but of desire only as the immediate and overt cause of delusion and suffering, and not of the will behind it, not certainly of life itself. So it's very interesting to, and of many a times people coming especially from too much, when we are too much into the material world and have ambitions and all kinds of desires of material things, we can't perceive of a life without desire. It becomes very difficult to think about it. So it's good to read and maybe little bit get clarified according to, let's see what more is written, and then we can take reflections. So one, again, the first half is that the one attitude which all of us have seen also in uh, asceticism, is that you just completely shun desire. So it's almost as a torture also at times. You do that torture to yourself because you know that it is not good for me, and you just shun it. So the ascetic, whose single aim is to wake up from what he calls the delirium of life, strives to strangle desire. So it's kind of a harsh attitude. So you don't give yourself comfort, you don't give yourself clothes, for example, you walk barefoot, and you are denying yourself good food. So these kind of things which appear a little bit too harsh, and people do that. We also may have done that from time to time. He bruises, by doing that, he bruises the motor springs of life and inhibits all expansive faculties, cripples all will and initiative, till he finds himself sitting upon his own corpse. So it's very rigid. This kind of tight, narrow attitude is very, very rigid and doesn't feel right. Then he talks about the other attitude, where he says that Gita advises to slay the desire, but not the will behind the desire. And whenever we are desiring something, we want to expand, we want to explore life, the material life, and that's how it helps. All through our desires, we are actually growing. We explore. If I have a desire of playing cricket, so I explore that part of my life. So through that we grow. Through desires we grow. But then he says that we don't have to slay the will behind the desire. Further, he explains the ascetics dealing with desire, and for the matter of that, with his whole nature, is relentlessly repressive, drastic, and destructive. So something doesn't feel light. It is very tight, rigid. If he succeeds in it, he returns when his body drops to the inane or the beyond. But if he fails, and majority do fail, there usually results a violent upheaval in his nature. So you are trying to, as if there is a spring, and you want to put a stone over then or rock over that spring, trying to suppress it. But the moment the rock is away, the spring just is back again, it's in its original position. So if he fails, and he says that majority do fail in such kind of an attitude where you're suppressing or repressing, there usually results a violent upheaval in his nature, or an obscure mixture and disorder, a quasi-spiritual state of unresolved anomalies, unresolved. So you haven't gotten to the root of it, you haven't understood, but there is just overt suppression, or a steep fall from the poise and purity so laboriously attained. The Gita depreciates this strenuous, short-sighted cavalier attitude of the ascetic and gives preference to the second attitude, which is of equality, detachment, and a quiet and persistent rejection of desire. This attitude is of those who believe that God is not only transcendent of life but also immanent in it. So let us stop here. So when there is a very good food in front of me, or when I am in a party full of people, what shall be my attitude now that I am there? It could be a party, it could be an interaction, it could be anything worldly, so to say. Some financial claims or court or whatever. Think about anything which is material and worldly. So it does not mean that being spiritual is that, oh, I should not be a part of that, oh, I should not be a part of that. No. But whatever comes has to be taken in and then let go of. What happens with us is that why we are trying to talk about desire so much, because the moment we begin to enjoy something and take pleasure in something, there is something in us which begins to stick to it, and the mind wants to now repeat that experience. For example, if say, I have a very good food, or I meet a person, what does the mind do? It goes back to the experience, it says, oh, it was very good, and it wants now to repeat it, either whether it was food or a person, and then it becomes addicted to it, and it does not find any joy if not for going back to that person or that situation or that food. So what happens in the process is that we fail to get in touch with our own delight within, the fountain of delight which is present within. So it is not that we should not enjoy people in life, we should not enjoy situations in life, we should not enjoy whatever life presents to us. It's not about not taking delight. And that's what he is sharing, that for the way that Gita suggests, it also suggests that the divine is transcendent, yes, beyond this material manifestation, but also present in this material manifestation. So each part of the material is also divine. So you can take delight in it. Sri Aurobindo, we know that he used to enjoy his sweet desserts, some people used to make for him, especially for him, and he used to enjoy it. But it's not that if it's not coming that he would say, no, no, 3 days I have not had that, where is it? I want it because I'm just craving for it. So that craving is not there. Same for cigar. He used to enjoy cigar, but when the cigar is not there, doesn't matter. So my happiness, my delight is not dependent upon these exterior things. And that is why we want to talk about stepping back from desire, because there is something in us which is so sticky in nature, which fails to find delight within, but it turns always to the outward experiences and wants to repeat it so as to have the delight back again. And when we step back from desire, so imagine that you are craving for something which you liked. It could be a situation, it could be something that you ate, you liked, it could be a place that you visited, you had a very great delight in, person, workplace, it could be just anything material. Now, when I'm craving for it, and if I have ran enough running after those cravings, then for a moment I can actually take a pause and I can say, this time I'm going to experiment. How am I going to do without that particular thing, person, or experience? Let me just be totally with this void that I experience when I don't run after that. And slowly, when we practice this, all of us can get in touch with a delight within. All of us, it's just a birthright, a contentment within. And that's why Mother says that there is a greater joy in stepping back from desire. because that makes you independent of the outer delight and gets you in touch with the inner delight. So that's why, crux is that that's why we are talking and reading and reflecting so much on desire, because we become addictive. That is what we have to drop. And Jetsunma shares that if there is one mantra in Buddhism, it is not Om Mani Padme Hum, but it is let go. And all of us are aware in our life that what are those spots where we have to learn that even without them can I have delight within, true contentment within. And when they are there, you enjoy. But when they are not there, you are not just, killing yourself after it. So then that's the highest possible way suggested, that don't deprive yourself, don't torture yourself like an ascetic. But when it is there, you enjoy. When it is not there, then also you are fine. You are complete and whole in yourself. So that wholeness we have to find. All of us have to find it. And we can find it. That's why it is given to us. The challenge. Yeah, so we can have more reflections if there are any.
So I had a question. Um, so you did mention that if Aurobindo ji did not ask for sweets, but he got it. Now, carrying that example forward, what if he got up and made a sweet for himself? Is he going to desire, or is he doing an action? Or the attitude we need to consider in this?
I think getting up and making a sweet is not a problem again. The problem is that the inner, as you said, the inner thing with
Hmm.
which I approach. है ना? तो
Yeah.
हम किसी भी चीज को, we can approach anything with an attitude of consumption or an attitude of a sacred something, like a, prasad, because there is divine in everything. Cigar has divine, cigarette has divine, all the things that we consider as bad as possible, everything has divine in it. It is not possible that the divine is not present there. So the problem is not that I should not be enjoying it while it is in front of me. If I have the inclination to enjoy, one can enjoy. But the problem is the attitude with which I approach it. वो जो हाथ उसकी तरफ बढ़ता है ना, बस वो हाथ की जो intention है, the hand which approaches it, either it is kind of consuming it, you fulfill me, or it is like touching with how we touch feet of the divine. How are we touching it? उसी में सारा वो है, किन हाथों से टच
So,
कर.
yeah. So, from what I understand is, and since I've been trying to practice it as well, we are avoiding all the unnecessary drama of that highs and lows that desire causes, either when it happens or when it doesn't happen, both times. We are avoiding disappointment, frustration, and the fact that all our energies are going in all of that instead of achieving the higher goals and pursuing them. It does not mean that I need to be passive and that I don't need to do things in life. I can still pursue, but I'm pursuing with a different feeling in my heart. Like, I'm shedding ego, I'm shedding expectations, I'm also not dejected when it doesn't happen. So these are the things, right? When you're saying shed your desire.
See, again, matlab one cannot put it into these 3 4 points or make a formula around it, but you get the sense of it. The sense of it is that there is something in us which is very, very sticky and incomplete. If we operate from that center, it gives us lots of pain. Now, pain, it's not that I am avoiding pain. है ना, अब आप लाल बत्ती पे रुकते हो, you stop at a red light. Are you avoiding accident, or are you actually being reasonable when you stop at? You would say, of course I would stop at red light. Why not? So pain is like that. Pain is like a red light given to us, like a signal, beep 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 beep. What we do is that we torment ourselves. We go even in those directions again and again, which bring us pain repeatedly. We operate from that center repeatedly. We are like that. So there, that's why we connect again with mother's prayers and meditations, where she says, do not torment my child. Do not torment thyself, my child. Peace, peace, peace. Because we do torment ourselves. So the attitude, if I can shift, the center can be shifted, that whenever I sense within that, oh, again, I'm feeling a bit of disappointment, can I tell myself that it is not me, and it is that stickiness within me, or in other words, we can say the desire soul, the ego mind, the sense mind, use any word, the vital, surface vital. And the moment we observe it, we are able to detach from it and not operate from that center. Because the detachment is given to us as a birthright, witnessing. So I see the disappointment rising. This is what we see, that you see the disappointment rises in you, but you are not the disappointment, you are stepped back now. Earlier, you used to be the disappointment, and you would defend the disappointment, that how dare the universe did not give that to me. Now I'm not defending my disappointment, I am seeing it, because it is an old pattern. It will not die away just like in a click of a finger, right? You will still see expectation, you will still see disappointment, but now you yourself are not it. You are standing back from it. You are not defending it. You are not demanding, oh, that the claim the disappointment wants, give it right away. You are not saying that. So that's
Yeah,
how
so
we,
what I've
yeah.
so what I've noticed is when the disappointment happens, it's short-lived. It doesn't totally encompass you, you don't think you're so privileged that it should not happen to you. So yeah, I've kind of sensed that a little bit. Also, I feel this is so much easier to practice compared to when you think that, oh, you just shun everything in your life. This is
Yeah,
so much more doable.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. And also we may try. I have tried many a times, this shunning, but we see that actually it's not a possibility, because to cut ourselves from existence is very artificial, and it is because we are all interconnected. So to cut ourselves away is not a possibility, but the dynamics will change now. So one of my friends with whom I was talking, and she's now again self exploration is going on. So she was sharing that I have called up my younger sister, elder sister maybe, and I have told her that enough of it and done. We are done. And I told her that, she felt very relieved that, oh, now I will not be bullied by my sister. But I told her that, you feel that you can do it, but you will see that you can't do it. You can't do it. It just, for now it feels temporary relief that, हो गया, मेरा खत्म, अब तेरे से मेरा कोई लेना देना नहीं है. But you can't do that. It's just not the design of creation that you can cut yourself, because we are all connected. We are all one. So, but the dynamics will change. That's what I shared with her, that between you and your sister, now the dynamics will change of relationship. Earlier you were like, too much into each other, and she would bully you and you would listen to that, and so boundaries will be there, respect will be there, and maybe more distance may be there. And the earlier patterns which were operating, they may not be needed, so new patterns, beneficial patterns may be there. But Changing in dynamics doesn't mean that you have cut yourself off, because that shunning is not a possibility. It's not a possibility.
Can I ask a question? When you were discussing, am I audible?
Hanji.
I just wanted to ask, like when you are really like hooked on onto something, like really
आपकी
addicted.
नंदिनी, आपकी वॉइस के साथ बहुत जबरदस्त, like a lion like background is there, like as in
Type it because I'm
tiger,
talking.
tiger. Yeah, there is a background. Yeah. Are you going to say something, Nandini, or are you not speaking now?
Oh, sorry, because I'm in the bus. I thought
हाँ
I'll
हाँ
type it.
हाँ, अच्छा नहीं, बोलो बोलो आप, you try. I'll rephrase it
Um,
again. हाँ.
I just wanted to ask, like I'm saying that we shouldn't like shun away from something. I have a question that when you are really hooked on onto something, it could be a person, it could be a preference or a lifestyle, and it's like your whole being believes that I cannot do without it. There are things that even if you on the surface you might feel no, I can, but not whole of your being resonate with the fact that I can live without it. Wouldn't it be beneficial to really not shun away, but at least cut yourself off for some time from that, so that a realization comes that no, I can live without it. And after that cutting off, maybe then engage with it. So that now, as you said, the new dynamics will emerge. Like, for example, like tea, like, I remember I really enjoy my morning tea because I've always had it. But then, because I remember when last time in one of the sessions, you said it's a good exercise to really just not do things that we feel that we cannot do without them. And just not do for some time and then maybe engage with tea when necessary. So I just wanted to ask, is
Yes.
temporary shutting off beneficial?
Yes, definitely. It is beneficial. It is beneficial. And we have our own experiences, to see that it is beneficial. For example, if you are, too much into, say, any food, and you want to now genuinely stop that addiction, food addiction. So if you try to actually completely shun it, which may appear harsh, although, but you want to do it for some time, and then you again engage in it after many months or days or whatever, then you can see what is the difference in the attitude. Now your contentment and joy is not dependent upon that outer person or thing. So from time to time, these periods of, one can say, shunning or deprivation, they are actually helpful in many cases. They are very helpful, because then it helps us to find our own ground within, that we can be without that either relationship or material thing or whatever. So yes, it's a good exercise for us, for those of us who can do. If not, then what we will do is that we will run after that thing which we think that we can't do without, and after some time it will bring us a lot of pain. When it will bring us a lot of pain, then we will be compelled to do something about it. So pain is very helpful in that case. So अगर अभी नहीं रुका जा रहा है, तो we can actually run after it, and after enough of running, we will have our own experiences of suffering, of pain, of turmoil, and then we will be compelled to walk in the right direction. Yeah, anything more here, anyone? So it's good to see that we not only have to find the divine somewhere above and beyond, but also very much present in this material existence, in each part of my body, wherever I see there is nothing but the divine. So we have to approach the life also, the material life also, in that manner, if we can. Yeah, so this is now, he says that this will be explored in much length now. A calm and integral rejection of desire for the discovery. We are not just shunning the desire for the sake of it. For the discovery of the divine will and its creative play in life constitutes the cardinal principle of the second attitude, which we shall now consider at some length. So now he explores this second highest possible attitude. Yeah, let's read a little bit here. Anyone would like to read?
Sorry, it's very small and I cannot read.
Shall I make it bigger? Yeah, I'll try. Wait. Uh,
No.
no?
I'm in the phone.
Oh, you're on the phone.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. Is anyone wanting to read or in the capacity to read? Okay. If not, then I can go ahead. Okay. So the conquest of desire, part 2. So far we were reading part 1. We have seen that 1. Desire is a darkened and deformed splinter of the divine will, and that its elimination means a free and unhampered working of the unveiled will in and through the liberated individual, and not a cessation of life and its activities. And that second point that we have seen, through though an indispensable agent in the development and aggrandizement of the individual, so long as he is bound to the ego and its dualities, it is the greatest obstacle to his transcendence of the ego and entry into the infinite freedom and self-existence bliss of his spiritual self and his identity with God and the universe, and that suppression of desire never leads to its conquest. So these are the three things that we have seen so far. First, that desire is a darkened and deformed splinter of the divine will, and that its elimination means that we are liberated from its hampered working. Second, though desire is an indispensable agent when the ego individuality is forming, a temporary phase comes where desire is important, so long as he is bound to the ego, right? But it is the greatest obstacle to his transcendence. When there comes a time in our life that we are ready to go beyond the ego individuality, then desire becomes a bar. Then it is not a helper anymore. So this is what we are exploring for ourselves. And third point that we have seen is that suppression of desire never leads to its conquest. So an understanding may be, yes, it may lead to conquest, a thorough understanding. But a suppression that, oh, you are wanting, and you are just like it's pent up, you have put a lid over it. That is suppression. That you are not convinced that I should not be wanting it. So what we have to do is that we have to get convinced. If I want to, either I will run after it, or either I'll be convinced that I should not be running after it. But this pent up thing that you have put a lid over the pressure cooker and it is building up. So inside you are not convinced. But on the top you are putting a lid that, oh no, this is not a good thing. I must not be doing it, So it's like putting a lid on the top, and that is never going to work. So that's what he's sharing, that suppression of desire never leads to its conquest. Yes, so now we are going to, I think, read something from, Essays on the Gita, Volume 2 by Sri Aurobindo. The part in italics. This part is from Sri Aurobindo. So, if we wish to live in an everlasting peace and happiness, not certainly in ascetic seclusion, but in full flood of life's salutary activities and in the full light of knowledge, and not as now in the stumbling ignorance of our mind, we have to conquer desire and replace it by the divine will as the leader of our nature. This is again quoting Sri Aurobindo. Desire and the passions that arise from desire are the principal sign and not of ego. It is desire that makes you go on saying I and mind and subjects you through a persistent egoism to satisfaction and dissatisfaction, liking and disliking, hope and despair, joy and grief, to your petty loves and hatreds, to wrath and passion, to your attachment to success and things pleasant, and to the sorrow and suffering of failure and of things unpleasant. Desire brings always confusion of mind and limitation of the will, an egoistic and distorted view of things, a failure and clouding of knowledge. Desire and its preferences and violences are the first strong root of sin and error. There can be, while you cherish desire, no assured stillness, tranquility, no settled light, no calm, pure knowledge. There can be no right being, for desire is a perversion of the spirit and no firm foundation for right thought, action, and feeling. Desire, if permitted to remain under whatever color, is a perpetual menace even to the wisest, and can at any moment subtly or violently cast down the mind from even its firmest and most surely acquired foundation. Desire is the chief enemy of spiritual perfection, crux of everything. It's like one drop of poison, even less than a drop. You add it to anything which you consider as most beautiful, elegant, and it does its job like that. And that is why we must understand desire and actually not only shallow but go to the root of it for our life, because otherwise if we don't understand and have knowledge about this and practice in our life, then we are time to time we are just tormenting ourselves. We all have taste of that torment, haven't we? So it binds us in the duality of running towards pleasure, running away from pain, wanting success, running away from failure, wanting approval and validation, running away from rejection. So it binds us in the duality of things. Yeah, anything here? Anyone?
I just have a question. What will be the difference between suppressing a desire and sublimating a desire? Because Mother speaks a lot about sublimating a desire somewhere. This is not understanding how is it different from suppressing it.
See, suppression, for example, if let us take any practical example. Uh, it could be eating sweet. which many of us are enchanted with. So if I know that I indulge in sweet and it gives me a lot of gratification, and now I want to undo it, I want to change it, I want to transform it, don't want to be dependent on it. But it is only a shallow expectation that I have from myself, that since it is not good to be addicted to anything, I have read, and sweet anyway is dangerous for health, so let me not eat sweets. It's just superficially I have seen it. So what I try to do is that from time to time I will have, from within there will be an impulse to eat sweet. That impulse is totally solid, it is not gone anywhere. But what I am doing is that I am saying, no, 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 I'm not going to, indulge in sweet. Oh, let me just eat something else, instead. But I'm not going to indulge in sweet. Let me distract myself. So this is suppression of desire. That the basic impulsion of that wanting and craving is not gone, but I am putting a lid over it because I have read that it is not good for me to indulge. While I feel that sublimation is more like going to the root of that craving thing. Why do we crave? And haven't I seen that whenever I crave, I eat? And what happens after that? After few minutes, or after a couple of whatever, hours, or maybe 1 day, 2 day, I'm craving for that again. It doesn't give me a settled fulfillment. It makes me run after it again and again. So when you understand and also do tark vitark, here the reasoning is very important. We are talking with ourselves. We are seeing the actual mechanism of it, how it works. So when we go to the root of it and we see that how much we torment ourselves when we run after these cravings, then through that understanding a kind of a renunciation comes, that now you don't even feel an inclination to touch it, and because you have touched some space within which is full of contentment without the sweet. So this I feel would be called sublimation, where there is no suppression, there is more like understanding, knowledge, and expansion of maybe your heart and mind. And through that, you are able to renounce truly. Now, when you touch sweet, it will be not with a stickiness that, oh, let me consume it so that it can be fulfilling for me. Because the fulfillment you have found within, you have touched that space which gives you fulfillment. It's just a matter of stabilizing that touch within that gives us fulfillment. All of us have taste of that. But the only thing is that we are not stabilized there. We are not grounded there. We have to get grounded there. So that's what I feel one can say is the difference. Yeah, any more suggestions or thoughts?
Yes, some days ago I was sharing a small meditation retreat with some Buddhist friends, and they were talking about a practice in which they make a fasting some days, and I thought, well, that's okay. I thought it was they were sharing that that helps them to disengage or from attachment to food, and I was thinking it's a good practice, but at the same time I was observing some of them, and they were not really they were a little disordered in eating. While they were not fasting, maybe they were eating a lot and not very good things. It made me think, like, maybe it's more difficult really to have constant discipline about eating rightly every day, that to, you know, be out of control and then make a day of fasting. And mother, in the book on education, she speaks a lot, she speaks about this, and she points, for example, that when educating a child, you should never say things like, I'm gonna, you have a prize, you will have a dessert because you behaved well, or you will not eat this because you behaved bad. Like, we should not install this kind of thoughts about food in children or in ourselves. Like, she says something like well, we should have a almost a scientific approach to food. Like, we should take in regular times the food that is appropriate for our bodies, and with detachment, not giving, you know, doing almost a scientific and disattached way of dealing with the food. And I think having that discipline is probably more difficult than to indulge and then repress. And it's really a search for an equilibrium and a healthy relation with that.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's very difficult because, you know, you see that this idea of greed about food, we just see it so much advertised everywhere, and we are living in this world where, you know, the moment food comes, like you are looking at the banners where people are advertising about foods. What is written next to the food? Yummy. It's very tasty, it's very yummy. So it actually, all of us have a very spoiled conditioning about food. Relationship with food is a very spoiled one. So it is almost impossible, close to impossible, that living in this world, whenever you think of food, the idea of greed will not come in. It's close to impossible. And that is why, as you said, it is very, very tough to have a right relationship with food. And it has to be cultivated because the atmosphere is not very congenial. Everywhere you go, it's not like one India or some other country. Everywhere that you go, you see that this idea of food and taste and greed is just goes together. And as you said, that if we have an environment at home where at least in few hours you see that how people are taking in food, they are not eating with greed, they are just eating to remain, you know, just like to exist they eat, and to be healthy they eat. Then that also influences, because just like outside at work words are influencing, the inner atmosphere, what's happening at home, how your parents are eating, how they are approaching food, they also, people around you, your siblings, your people, you know, that you see all the time, how they are approaching food, that also becomes like an influence. But it's very, very difficult, as you said, to cultivate that, but we must do that, you know, otherwise what's the fun? We must try to as much capacity as we can, and for that we have to first change ourselves. If my relationship with food changes, then I can cultivate an environment at home where my children, or, you know, people around me also, one can spill out that relationship. Otherwise, if I am greedy all the time for food, I cannot expect my children to not crave for taste and greed. We can't do that.
In fact, when we see the treatment that receives a person who is addicted to some substance, to alcohol, drugs, or whatever, it's like when you arrive to that you know, extreme of addiction to something, the only possibility you have left is to avoid it completely. Like, the you came to a point where you just cannot deal with it at all. You cannot drink a drop of alcohol because you know you are not in control. So it's very interesting, I think. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I think
Avoid that.
what Nandini was sharing earlier, that from time to time, if we feel that, oh, this is too much that I am indulging into, so from time to time, these moments of deprivation are very helpful, where we can find our own ground within, and without that substance or material or whatever person or relationship, we are okay. We have a ground. Yes. It's good actually to practice all these things because they're very empowering in nature. Because as Rupert Spira, one of the masters, he says that uh, like when you are wanting to make a call, like you have a impulse or urge to just make that call or just eat that thing or just watch that movie, at that point don't do that. Step back. And then after, when that impulse has gone, that urge or that that agitation has gone, then you can do the same thing. So it's again, the center has shifted, that I'm not approaching that thing with now a consumption attitude, that, oh, let me fulfill myself through that. So it's very interesting. It must, it as if we are strengthening our muscles through these exercises. Yeah, anything more here, anyone? So I suggest that what we do is maybe uh, just read these words of Sri Aurobindo again, and maybe do some practice now, the times that are coming, the days or the week, of maybe stepping back from that urge and impulse and agitation when it is there, and again enjoying, taking delight in whatever is there, but not with an urge of agitation, like, okay, let me have it. So let us read this again. Desire and the passions that arise from desire are the principal sign and not of ego. So whenever I indulge in it, it means I am actually fanning the ego. Whenever I step back from it, then I am in my true consciousness. Whenever we are running after desires and passions and agitations, it is fanning the fire of ego. You are making the ego bigger, the falsehood even bigger. So desire and the passions that arise from desire are the principal sign and not of ego. It is desire that makes you go on saying I and mine, and subjects you through a persistent egoism to satisfaction and dissatisfaction, liking and disliking, hope and despair, joy and grief, to your petty loves and hatreds, to wrath and passion, to your attachment to success and things pleasant, and to the sorrow and suffering of failure and of things unpleasant. Desire brings always confusion of mind and limitation of the will. I think all of us must have experienced this confusion, as if the mind becomes hazy. Desire brings always confusion of mind and limitation of the will, an egoistic and distorted view of things, a failure and clouding of knowledge. Desire and its preferences and violences are the first strong root of sin and error. It compels us to make an error. It compels us to do something which is not right, must not be done, but we are compelled to do it. So, desire and its preferences and violences are the first strong root of sin and error. There can be, while you cherish desire, no assured stainless tranquility, no settled light, no calm, pure knowledge. There can be no right being, for desire is a perversion of the spirit and no firm foundation for right thought, action, and feeling. Desire, if permitted to remain under whatever color, is a perpetual menace even to the wisest, and can at any moment subtly or violently cast down the mind from even its firmest and most surely acquired foundation. So you may have the best possible spiritual realization, but if even a drop of desire comes, it will take you off, one can say that, real, the throne. So it can violently cast down the mind from even its firmest and most surely acquired foundation. Desire is the chief enemy of spiritual perfection. And this is from Essays on the Gita. So rest we will take later. I think we should take bits and pieces and maybe practice a little more rather than read too much and feel that we have done it and we got it. So yes, any last comments, any reflections? Okay, so maybe not any more reflections. Then in that case, let's take a moment of silence. Share, dedicate all the merit that we may have accumulated, sharing it with sentient beings near and far. May all of us have the strength to step back from all our cravings and weaknesses and to gain our ground in our true self, in our true solid consciousness. May all of us be empowered from within. Thank you.